Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Trumpet's Call. I'm Maria. I pray that you are holding on to faith and holding on to hope during these times. Welcome to another session on the channel and a new series. I have been meaning to start this series for some time now, but I've been so involved in other things. And I still am involved in other things, but I thought I would just try to sneak this one in real quick because we really need to talk about these things. And the name of this new series is called Pagan Insertions in the Scriptures. Pagan Insertions in the Scriptures. You know, brothers and sisters, we know that the Sefer, the Scriptures, they're our book. As Hebrews, they're our book. But the ways in which some of the Scriptures have been translated, it leaves something to be desired. Certain pagan words have been inserted into the text, and then certain other words have been taken out or changed. And we will talk about these things as we present lessons within the series. So the first word we're going to tackle today is the word church. We're going to look at this word and we're going to see how and where it fits in the Scriptures. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to read a verse of scripture that's probably very familiar to you. We'll be reading from Matthew chapter 16, verses 16 through 18. And it reads, He said unto them, But whom say ye that I am? So we're picking up at the point where Messiah is asking his disciples, Whom do men say that I am? And then he's asking them, But whom do you say that I am? So he wants to know what his disciples think of him and who do they think that he is. And Simon Peter, Kepha, answered and said, Thou art Mashiach, the Son of the living Eluah. And Yahusha answered and said unto him, Blessed, Baruch, art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father, which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, Kepha, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Okay, so people have told us that, particularly the Catholic Church has told us that when Yahusha said, this rock I will build my church, that he was talking about the rock of Peter because Peter's name means rock. And so he's telling Peter that you're going to be in charge of the church and that Peter was the first pope. That is the belief system of the Catholic Church, that Peter was made pope when Messiah made this declaration. But if you look at this scripture closely, and if you refer back to the Tanakh, you'll see that there was a rock that followed the children of Yasharal in the wilderness, and that rock was Mashiach. Mashiach is the chief cornerstone. He is that stone of stumbling and that rock of offense. He is the rock upon which he built his quote-unquote church. He is the rock. He is the foundation of all things. So he was telling Kepha that he would be building his quote-unquote church on himself and in himself. He is the foundation. So we just addressed a little pagan insertion into the scripture by way of belief system, believing that somehow Peter was the first pope. He was not. He was not. Okay, and I could go further into that, but I won't. So we have here, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. So let's look at this word church. And in the Hebrew, or Greek, I should say, in the Greek, when you look this word up, the Greek word for church is ekklesia. Ekklesia, and it is defined as an assembly, a religious congregation. So two words that you could use for a church would be congregation, assembly. If you look in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh, you will see the word congregation used many, many, many times. So a group of people who have been called out for a particular purpose has been called a congregation. The children of Yasharal were referred to in the scriptures as a congregation. Okay? So this word is not new to us. We see it being used in the Tanakh, but it was not called church. It was called congregation. So this word congregation is used in the Tanakh many times. And the Hebrew word is adah, and it means congregation, company, assembly, multitude, people, a gathering. Okay, so when the children of Yasharal are referred to in the Tanakh, they are referred to as a congregation. The Hebrew word adah. Okay, there is another Hebrew word that is used in the scriptures for assembly or congregation, and that word is kahal, and it is Strong's H6951, and it is also used, although I do find that the other word is used more frequently for congregation. But the definition for this word is assembly, company, congregation, convocation, assembly. It can be for evil purposes, for war or invasion, or for religious purposes. It's a company, say, of returning exiles, and it just is referred to as a company or an organized body. Okay, so multitude. This is the way in which this word is defined. So you see in the scriptures, you can have used for the word assembly, adah or kahal. Each of these means an assembly or a congregation. So these are the words that are used for assembly and congregation in the Tanakh. They are also being referred to as a congregation in the Brit Hadashah, or the renewed covenant. But the word here in Greek is ekklesia. Okay? Same meaning, congregation. In Greek, ekklesia. In Hebrew, adah, or kahal. So let's go back to this word ekklesia and look at some additional definitions. Okay, it says definition: an assembly, a religious congregation, an assembly, congregation, church, the whole body of Christian believers. Now here is where they insert their belief system into our text. When the scriptures refer to congregation, they are not talking about Christian believers. They are talking about Hebrew congregations within the nation of Yasharal. They're not talking about the church. Yahushua was not referring to a Christian church when he said, I will build my ecclesia. He was not. Okay? That has been a pagan insertion into the scriptures. Okay? These scriptures have been interpreted in such a way to insert the church and insert the Gentiles and remove the original people of the book. It goes on to say, it means out of. Ek means out of or out from, and to, call. So, kaleo means to call, ek means out of. So properly, it means people called out from some place to someone. They say from the world to God. But we understand that there was a congregation in the wilderness. So the people are called out of the nations. Our people, the Hebrew people, were called out of the nations, all of the nations of people, and they were called to their father, to Alua, to their power. Okay? They were called to a kingdom and to a nation. So they were called out of something and then called to something. And so this was the case in the Tanakh, and it's also the case here in the Brit Hadashah, or the renewed covenant. And what Messiah is telling us is that he's here to confirm or renew the covenant. And just as there was a congregation at the establishment of the covenant at Sinai, here it is, Messiah is referring to a congregation at the reestablishment or the renewal of the covenant that Messiah came to renew. Okay? He came to confirm this covenant in his body, in his blood. Okay? And so it goes on to say the total or universal body of, once again, it's saying, it's assigning its own meaning of what this means. It's saying it's believers of God called out from the world and into his eternal kingdom. But the understanding here is that Messiah is talking about his own people. He's talking about Hebrews to Hebrews. It has nothing to do with the Gentile church. Nothing. Okay? The English word church comes from the Greek word kyriakos, belonging to the Lord. And we know the word Lord, and we will discuss this in another lesson, but we know the word Lord is derived in part from Baal. and it's linked to Baal worship. Okay, so we don't typically use the word Lord for the Most High because it's linked to paganism. We will study that in depth when we get to that study on God and Lord. Okay, it says the root of the terms ecclesiology and ecclesiastical. So ecclesia or ecclesia is the root of the terms ecclesiology and ecclesiastical. Okay, so we have to look at this word a little bit more deeply though. What does the word church really mean? They're telling us that the word ecclesia means church, but it doesn't. The word ecclesia translates to congregation and assembly. So they want us to believe that the word church is the word ecclesia in English, but it's not. When you look at this word ecclesia, it means assembly, it means congregation. It does not mean church. Church is a completely, totally different word, and we're going to talk about that.
The same is true in your belief systems. If you're going to believe something, you better do your homework and find out what the words really mean. Because the men who run this world from behind the scenes are telling you something and they're doing something, and unless you know how to read the code, you're never going to figure out what's going on here. A classic example before we get started on this word chief cornerstone, a classic example is the word church. Many people use the word church and have no concept in their mind where it comes from, where that word comes from. The word church comes from a Scottish word, kirk, which gives us Captain Kirk of the good ship Enterprise. Okay, we're talking money, Enterprise, Captain Kirk. You think that's silly? It's very serious. Kirk in Scottish is church in English, but Kirk in Scottish goes back to a Greek goddess named Mother Circe. Mother Circe becomes Mother Circe in Rome. And then the Knights Templars took the worship of Mother Circe from Rome into Scotland and called it Mother Kirk. And the English call it Mother Church. So once you begin to see church is merely Kirk, which is merely Circe, go back and look at the mythology of Mother Circe in Greece. Mother Circe, according to Greek mythology, was able to hypnotize people with her magic and bring them into her house and close the door and take from them their mentality and their brains and turn them into animals and eat them. And this is precisely what Mother Church has done. All over the world, she has brought in people and took from them their mentality, their intelligence, and their natural ability to think, and shut the door behind and now live off of them. They send checks, and she lives off of them. Let me warn you that the same people who have given you Illuminati, who have given you your international banking cartels, who have given you your corrupt governmental systems, has also given you the church. There is a story in the Bible, in the New Testament, we call Christianity. It is a hidden story. It's filled with symbols. It's a metaphor. This is why the Bible is called the greatest story, the greatest story ever told. It's just a story. But it's very interestingly woven as to symbolic metaphors. And once you understand what the symbols mean, it finally hits you. Wow, now I see what the Bible's saying. And it's not saying anything like what you thought Mother Church had taught you. The church is merely a corporate entity founded in Europe by the Knights Templars, the same people today we call international bankers.
So according to Jordan Maxwell in this video, we see that the origin of church is the word Kirik, which is linked to Circe, who is a Greek and Roman witch, goddess. This is emblematic of the church. The word Circe is emblematic of the church to the degree that it is a woman who lures. She gets you into her doors and shuts the doors about you, and then she robs and takes from you, and she sucks your lifeblood from you. She takes everything from you. She takes your time, your money, your children, everything from you, and your life revolves around her and being in her presence. That perfectly describes what the quote-unquote church is. So we're going to read this article and dig a little deeper into the meaning of Circe, church, who is the harlot of Revelation. So now we're going to read this article in Parables, Bringing Hidden Truths website. It's entitled Circe, Church, Harlot by Joseph Heron. So we're going to dig a little deeper into this whole concept of the church being emblematic of this pagan witch deity, false deity, Circe. So on the screen, you see a picture of Circe with a golden cup in her hand. Okay. Now we know that Revelation describes a woman with a golden cup in her hand. So to name the quote unquote church after Circe, it's completely in line with what it does, in complete alignment with what it does and how it deceives. It says, a brother in Christ, Lauren Smith, recently shared some thoughts with me regarding the origin of the word church. The online Catholic Encyclopedia begins their entry on the church with the following. The term church, Anglo-Saxon, Circe, modern German, Kirche, Swedish, Kirika, is the name employed in the Teutonic languages to render the Greek ecclesia, the term by which the New Testament writers denote the society founded by their Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, so you can see that the root of the word is Circe and Kirke. Circe and Kirke do not equal ecclesia. It's a completely different word. Completely different word. So the root word for church is Kirke or Circe. The root word for congregation or assembly is ecclesia. So to define ecclesia as church is completely out of order. It's a complete mistranslation. Completely. It's as if I said, my name is Maria, and in Spanish, my name is Kathy. It doesn't follow. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Okay? So the root word for church is Circe. The root word in Greek for congregation, assembly, is ecclesia. And that is the word that's being used in the text. So every time you see the word church in the scriptures, it was inserted there. It was not translated. It was inserted. It was a pagan insertion in the scriptures. Continuing. If you are unfamiliar with the word Circe, which is the Anglo-Saxon form of our English word church, it was also the name attributed to a goddess skilled in sorcery, whose story can be found in Homer's The Odyssey. The Odyssey tells the story of the hero named Odysseus, or Ulysses, who sailed his ship on a remarkable 10-year voyage as he returned from the Trojan War. Along the way, he and his crewmen encountered many perils and adventures, the majority perishing while a remnant obtained great glory. Homer recounts an experience where Odysseus and his men land on an island, Aia. They draw lots to see who will explore the island and who will remain with the ship. Odysseus remains with the ship while others go exploring. The men come to a clearing in the midst of a forest in which is a castle, the home of the sorceress Circe. As they approach, they are met with lions, wolves, and other wild creatures that are unusually docile, fawning on the men as if they wish to be friends. These are men who have been turned into animals by the sorcery of Circe. Circe invites the famished men into her home for a feast. The men do not suspect her treachery. She has poisoned the food, and they fall asleep as they eat. She then turns Odysseus' men into a herd of swine. Only one man had the caution to remain hidden in the woods, and observing the fate of his mates, he returns to the ship in great grief and recounts the matter to Odysseus, who then sets out to rescue his men, aided by the counsel of Hermes. When Circe finds that she cannot transform Odysseus into a swine, she invites him instead into her bed, plying the wiles of a harlot upon him. But he has been forewarned of this as well, and escapes her treachery there. This story, taken from Greek mythology, contains profound parallels to the story of the church, Anglo-Saxon Circe. In the book of Revelation, the church is depicted as a harlot and a sorceress with a cup of abominations in her hands. Okay, now notice in the story, which this is Circe, which is indicative of the church, it brings the men in and then it lures them with poisoned food, which is equivalent of false gospel, got spell. That's another pagan insertion into the scripture. Got spell, a god spell. Okay, that's been cast over the people. A spell, poisoned food, false doctrine. They're being fed and it lulls them to sleep. And when they awaken, they've been turned into swine, an unclean and unset apart, unholy beast. That's what happens inside of the churches. Continuing. Revelation 17, 3-6. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead a name was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and of the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman, drunk with the blood of the saints, with the blood of the martyrs of Yahusha. When I saw her, I marveled with great amazement. This woman is no friend of the saints of God, though she will gladly invite them to drink her intoxicating potions and revel in the bed of her sensuality and fornication. She delights in turning those who are called to be sons of God into bestial men. She casts many into a slumber from which only a remnant escape. So, brothers and sisters, this is what we're seeing right now. Men have been, and women and children, have been cast into the bed, cast into the influence of the quote-unquote Circe church. They have been brought in, they have been lulled to sleep, they have been fed poison, false doctrine, false pagan holidays, false revelry. And those who don't drink her poison are lured into her bed and commit fornication with her. This is what's being described in Revelation chapter 17. This is Circe committing fornication with the people who have been lured into her bed, lured into her house, and the doors close among them, and they are worse for wear. Only a few ever manage to escape. But all grace and praises be to the Most High. We, brothers and sisters, were trapped in the grips of Circe, and the Most High pulled us out. He pulled us out by showing us the truth of where we were. There are many still trapped there, and they think that they are in the Most High's house. They've been deceived. Continuing. Kirik, or Circe, was a goddess, pharmakia, witch or sorceress, who lived with her nymph attendants on the mythical island of Aeia. She was skilled in the magic of metamorphosis, the power of illusion, and the dark art of necromancy. Necromancy is essentially dealing with the dead, conspiring with the dead, speaking with the dead, raising of the dead. It has to do with that which is dead. And when you sit in Circe's presence, you die spiritually, but you're like the walking dead. You're like a zombie. You walk around as if you're living, but you're really dead. And what do you eat? You feast on one another. You feast on each other. That's what happens within the walls of Circe's house. When Odysseus landed on her island, she transformed his men into animals. But with the help of the god Hermes, he overcame the goddess and forced her to release his men from her spell. So, for those of us who are in Messiah, Messiah will help to release us from the spell of Circe over us, the spell of the church. He will do that. He is our Savior, and He is the salvation that the Father has sent. But we must submit to Him. We must first be willing to admit that we have been in her clutches, that we have been trapped in paganism, that we've been trapped in the house of wickedness and been lured into the bed of abominations. Continuing. Perhaps you are already aware that the English word sorcery is used to translate the Greek word pharmakia in the same book of Revelation. It is employed in a passage describing the great harlot, who is also called Babylon. One of the ways that we are lured is through the art of pharmakia, pharmacy, drugs, prescription drugs, all manner of drugs, pleasure drugs, pharmacy drugs, to bring us into a place of madness, into a place of sleep, into a place of drunkenness, where we cannot discern good from evil. Revelation 18:23-24. Because all the nations were deceived by your sorcery, pharmakia, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and all who have been slain on the earth. There are such tremendous parallels between the harlot of Revelation and Circe of Greek mythology that comparison comes naturally. Now keep in mind, Circe is of Greek mythology, but the Romans adopted the gods of the Greeks. So Circe is a god of Roman mythology as well, okay, of the Roman Empire, which is Babylon. Okay, so to call the Roman church or Circe is completely consistent with this idea of what she does and who she is. Okay. In the presentation titled Parables, I have written of the symbolism of the swine. Yahuwah employs many natural things in his creation as types and shadows to present spiritual truth to those who have eyes to see. I will include a portion here from the aforementioned presentation that speaks of the symbolism of swine. This will bring understanding to the story of Circe turning Odysseus' men into swine. The parable of the pig. Comparing men to swine is a type of parable. In the Old Testament, Yahuwah gave criteria for clean and unclean animals. For an animal to be considered clean, it had to meet two criteria. It had to have a split hoof, and it had to chew the cud. Both of these things stand for something spiritually. The split hoof is a picture of being able to divide or rightly divide between truth and error, between right and wrong. Chewing the cud is a picture of meditating on truth. Another term for chewing the cud is ruminate, and we often use this word to speak of a person chewing on a thought or idea. Chewing the cud spiritually stands for someone who loves the truth and who will therefore chew on what they have learned, seeking to derive all the benefit from it. The pig meets one criteria for a clean animal, but fails the other. The pig has a split hoof, but does not chew the cud. This is a picture of the worst type of person, for it speaks of a person who has the ability to discern truth from error, but they do not love the truth, so they do not derive the benefit from the truth that they receive. So these are those who hold the truth in unrighteousness, as the scripture teaches us. They have the ability to know what is right and to know what is wrong, but they choose not to know. They choose not to act on what they know. They choose to be unclean. They choose to be a swine when they could be a Most High Yah servant. This is one such as the profane Esau, who sold his birthright for a morsel of bread. He had no desire for the things of the Most High. He had the same access to Abraham, the same access to Yitzhak, the same access to Eber. He had the same access to the things of the Most High. He was surrounded by Torah, yet he chose the things of the world. He held the truth in unrighteousness, and many of his descendants do the same. They hold the truth in unrighteousness. They know that the Most High exists. They know the type of world we live on. They know the Most High sits above the circle of the earth. They know who the true people are. They know that the book is real. They know that the Most High will judge the earth in righteousness. They know, yet they hold the truth in unrighteousness because they love their sin rather than the light. From such, turn away. For this reason, Yahushua told his disciples to not cast their pearl of truth before people who fall into this category. Further insight into the symbolism is found in the same article as it describes Mashiach's miracle of casting the unclean spirits out of the Gadarene demoniac. The demons entreated Yahushua to send them out into a nearby herd of swine, and Yahushua permitted them. The entire herd then ran down the hill into the sea and perished. The swine are a picture of the kingdom of Alua during the church age. Remember that swine are a picture of men who are given truth, having a split hoof, but they do not love the truth, meaning they do not chew the cud. They have the split hoof, they are able to discern good from evil, but they do not chew the cud. They do not desire to meditate on the Most High's word, ingest the Most High's word, and become one with the Most High's word, who is Yahushua. They have no desire. They are unclean. He says God, the Most High, is telling us that the church age will be a period when many whom he has given truth will not love the truth. The church age has been a period when doctrines of demons have entered the church, and it has been a period marked by sin. Yahushua gave several other overt parables to reveal that this would be the nature of the church age. He gave the parable of the mustard seed, where he said the kingdom of Yahuwah was like the smallest of seeds, but it would grow to be the largest tree in the garden until the birds of the air would nest in its branches. Today's Christianity is the largest religion in the world, and it is also filled with much error and false doctrine. The birds of the air are a picture of satanic influences resting among the various branches of the church. Indeed, from the very inception, when Constantine decided that he needed a religion for his empire, the church, Kirik, was something that was unwholesome, unholy, and not created by the Most High. The Most High did not create the church. Yahushua did not establish the church. He established a congregation, an assembly of called out ones, called out Hebrews. The same congregation that we saw in the Tanakh of called out Hebrews in Mount Sinai, we have a congregation of called out ones, Hebrews, with Messiah as he was reestablishing and reaffirming the covenant. So we see here, based on this article and based on the wisdom of Torah, that Yahushua was prophesying that there would be a time when kingdom things and kingdom people and kingdom principles and kingdom scriptures were handed over to the beasts of the field and the fowls of the air. He was indicating that there would be a time when what he was establishing would be in the hands of wicked men, would be in the hands of those who would hold the truth in unrighteousness, would be in the hands of those who did not understand spiritual things and took it and subverted it and perverted it and made it into a church, a religion with a white Jesus and pagan holidays, pagan symbolism, pagan religious practices. He's prophesying that. And so we were born into that system. We were born into it and we participated. We didn't know any better. But now that we do, we must come out of her, my people. Come out of her, that you partake not of her sins, of her plagues. We must come out of Babylon. And the church is the religion of Babylon. It is where the woman sits, where she sleeps. It is where people go in to meet with her and be intimate with her and to learn her ways and her statutes and to learn the ways of the wicked one. We must come out of her and come into a relationship with the Father through his Torah made flesh, Yahushua. And we need no organization. We need no circe. We need no sacraments and all the things that they offer in order to get to know the Most High. We need his Son, and we need his written word, and we need his Ruach in our hearts guiding us. That's what we need. And so we must come out of Circe and out of Kirik. We must come out and return to being the congregation of the righteous, the group of set apart and called out ones, the assemblies. So brothers and sisters, if you choose to congregate with each other, and I think you should choose to call yourself an assembly or congregation, but never a church, never Circe. This idea of church, the idea of church was not something that the Most High instituted. It is paganism, it is insertion into the scriptures, and it is an insertion into the Most High's plans and purposes for his people. The people have been replaced by the quote-unquote church according to their false doctrine. The ecclesia, the congregation, the assembly, has been replaced by the quote-unquote church. The priesthood of Yahushua and the disciples and those who are Hebrew by birth, the descendants of Abraham, they have been replaced with the concept of the priesthood of all believers, or the priesthood of Catholicism. It has all lies, 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 all lies. And what we see here in this word, Kirke, Circe, is a look back toward the pagan establishment of the church, of the building, of the structure, and of the religious paganism, of the religious order that comes to kill, steal, and destroy, just like its master. It desires to suck your life's blood from you and take everything from you. Take your money, take your time, take your children, take the belief of truth away from you and give you false doctrine and error to lull you into sleep, to lull you into the bed of fornication so that you might receive false doctrine and false belief systems that would lead you to death and not to life. That is what you find in Kirke, in Circe, and in the church. But all praises be to the Most High Yahuwah, who has called us out of the grips of this demonic sorceress, has called us out of the grips of this one who desires to feed us poison and cause us to die, spiritually and physically. Case in point, 501c3 status. What is it? Well, according to this article on 501c3.org, it is a portion of the United States Internal Revenue Code that allows for federal tax exemption of nonprofit organizations, specifically those that are considered public charities, private foundations, or private operating foundations. It is regulated and administered by the U.S. Department of Treasury through the Internal Revenue Service. There are other 501c3 organizations indicated by categories: 501c31, 501c29. The discussion will focus on 501c3. Entities that can seek 501c3 determination from IRS include corporations, trusts, community chests, LLCs, and unincorporated associations. The overwhelming majority of 501c3 organizations are nonprofit corporations. Purpose limitations. In order to qualify as a tax-exempt 501c3 organization, a nonprofit must exist for one or more exclusively charitable purposes. It is a tax designation within the government in which all organizations deemed religious, charitable, scientific, literary, educational, all fostering of national or international amateur sports, or prevention of cruelty to animals or children are designated exempt from taxes, essentially. If you give to them, your money will be given back to you through tax credits. Okay? So when you give money to Circe or to the church, the government gives your money back to you through tax credits. Doesn't that demonstrate that they're in bed together? So can you see that if the church is beholden to the government, meaning if they need that 501c3 status in order to not have to pay taxes and all the money that they lure away from the people, can you imagine if they had to pay taxes and all that? Can you imagine the loss of revenue for the churches? So they don't desire to have to pay that kind of money. So they're in bed, so to speak, with the governments. And then the governments can then the governments can then come back and dictate, no, you can't talk about that. Yes, you should talk about that. There's only certain things you can preach from the pulpit, and then you become beholden. But of course, because the government is part of the beast system that carries the woman. I'll say that again. The government of the world is part of the beast system that carries the woman. The woman is indicative of Christianity and all pagan religions, all of them, but in particular, Christianity. So now we're going to take a look at some of the churches and just how much money they're making, just how much they're profiting off of this Babylonian system that carries them. So we're going to look at the Catholic Church first. And we're reading this article from Church of Our Lady. And the title is, How Rich is the Catholic Church? It was dated June of this year, written by Edward Miller. Investors are able to generate quite accurate estimations that the amount of money held by the Catholic Church is somewhere in the range of 10 billion to 15 billion. Is the Catholic Church the most prosperous church in the world? However, due to the fact that the Church owns precious works of art, land, gold, and assets all over the world, it is without a doubt one of the wealthiest institutions on the face of the planet. What is the net worth of the Catholic Church? It is conceivable that their assets are worth billions. The Catholic Church operates with the most personnel, which contributes to the large amount of money that it collects. Their wealth is a representation of their monetary entity. The Church is made up of both the spiritual body of Jesus, which is called the mystic body, and the actual presence of Christ, which includes his soul, blood, and divinity. Interesting. How big is the Catholic Church in the world? Nevertheless, there are estimates available for two other branches, primarily those of Germany and Australia. The value of the German branch of the Catholic Church is estimated to be $25 billion, which is significantly more than the value of the Australian branch at $20.9 billion. Lots of money. Lots of money. Continuing. What is the richest religious organization in the world? The Catholic Church is, according to the facts of the matter, the wealthiest religious institution in the entire world, followed by the Mormon Church. The list demonstrates that there are three distinct branches of the Catholic Church: the Catholic Church, the Vatican, the Catholic Church Australia, and the Catholic Church of Germany. How much is the Catholic Church worth in 2021? As of the year 2021, it is predicted that the Catholic Church, which is the largest and most influential of all Christian organizations, had a fortune of more than 30 billion. The organization owns a variety of facilities, including, as churches, schools, presbyteries, hospitals, nursing homes, offices, tennis courts, and telephone towers, which are used to calculate an estimate of the organization's net value. Interesting. Is the Catholic Church the wealthiest organization in the world? However, due to the fact that the Church owns precious works of art, land, gold, and assets all over the world, it is without a shadow of a doubt that one of the wealthiest institutions on the face of the earth, I guess, is the Catholic Church. Since the adoption of Catholicism as the state religion of the Roman Empire in the year 313 AD, the Church's influence has been on the rise almost continuously. How much money does the entire Catholic Church have? The wealth of the Vatican is estimated by financial experts to range anywhere from 10 billion to 15 billion. Only Italian stock holdings account for 1.6 billion of this wealth, which is equivalent to about 15% of the total value of shares that are listed in the Italian market. How much is the Catholic Church worth, the U.S. Catholic Church? According to the findings of inquiry, the national wealth of the Catholic Church is estimated to be about $30 billion. Which church is the richest? A listing of the world's most prosperous religious groups, and we see the quote-unquote Holy See, or the Vatican, and according to this chart, it has an incalculable estimated worth of over 10 trillion. 10 trillion, meaning they're estimating 10 trillion, but it could be a lot more. That's a lot. 10 trillion. And that's headquartered in the Vatican City. And that includes everything. It includes all of the churches worldwide. It includes the Vatican City. And it includes all of the land and the art and the gold and everything that they own. Calculated at 10 trillion. The next richest church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. And they clock in at $100 billion. And their reach is worldwide. Okay? And then you have the Catholic Church in Germany, which is estimated at 26 billion. And then you have the Catholic Church of France, which is estimated at 23 billion. Okay? So these are all Catholic Church and Mormon. Interesting, really interesting, because both of these organizations have sought to steal the identity and the priesthood of Yahuwah's people, the Catholic Church and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay, continuing. So what is the Pope's net worth? The current Pope Francis is reported to have a net worth of 2.5 million. In addition to serving as a religious hub for a sizable portion of the world's population, the Vatican is also among the wealthiest organizations on the face of the globe. Why is the Vatican so rich? Admission fees to museums, as well as the purchase of coins, stamps, and publications, all contribute to the financial well-being of Vatican City. The Vatican Bank has been at the epicenter of a number of financial scandals, which is what inspired Pope Francis to adopt reforms that guarantee financial responsibility and transparency. Those scandals have been brought to light as a result of the reforms. Is the Catholic Church the largest landowner in the world? The Catholic Church is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, non-governmental landowners in the world. It has more than over 1 billion members, making it one of the largest religious organizations in the world. According to one estimation, the church owns over 177 million acres, which is the equivalent of 277,000 square miles. That's a lot of land. That's a lot of territory. Continuing. Now we're going to be looking at this article from this website called Famous People. We're looking at the 20 richest pastors in the world 2022. So this is dated 2022, but the numbers are based on revenues taken in 2021. Okay, so this was written in March of this year by the Famous People's staff. And the question is, who are the richest pastors in the world? David Jeremiah, David Oyedepo, or ? Introduction. Many churches hire pastors to lead their congregations. The word pastor comes from the Latin word for shepherd. Pastors can have several streams of income, including a fixed salary from the church with other benefits, speeches at religious events and conferences, wedding officiating, royalties from their books, funeral officiating, online webinars, television programs, CDs, and DVD sales. List of the top 20 richest pastors in the world in 2021. I did not want to go over the whole 20, but in the list you'll find the Creflo Dollar and the Jesse Duplantis. I'm just going to go over the top 5, okay? The top 5 richest pastors in 2021. And number 5, we have Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn's estimated net worth is $65 million. It says Benny Hinn is an Israeli-born televangelist who started Miracle Crusades. He also hosts TV shows, the TV show This Is Your Day, seen daily in more than 200 countries. The television program appears on the God Channel, INSP Networks, Vision TV, Trinity Broadcasting Network, Grace TV, Revelation TV, and Daystar Television Network. Okay? Benny Hinn, $65 million. Number 4, Joel Osteen. He's worth a whopping $95 million. And it says, Joel Osteen is an American pastor and the host of the television program Lakewood Church. He studied at Oral Roberts University. Lakewood Church acquired the Compaq Center, or the early arena for the Houston Rockets, in 2005. His house has an estimated worth over $10.5 million. He married Victoria Osteen in 1987. It goes on to say, Osteen published many books, including The Power of Favor, I Declare, Your Best Life Now for Moms, and Every Day a Friday. His book, Become a Better You, sold more than 4 million copies in 2005. He was on Barbara Walters' list of 10 most fascinating people in 2006. Joel Osteen has a net worth of $95 million. His church has an estimated annual budget of $70 million. That's a lot of tax write-offs. That's a lot of 501c3 status. Continuing. Number 3, Pat Robertson. He's worth a whopping $105 million. According to this article, Pat Robertson is a former Southern Baptist minister and media mogul who founded International Family Entertaining Incorporation and the Christian Broadcasting Network. In addition, Robertson is the founder of the American Center for Law and Justice. Justice for who? Continuing. David Oyedepo is worth a whopping $155 million. David Oyedepo, affectionately called Papa by the members of his church, is the founder and bishop of Living Faith Church Worldwide. The organization's network of churches is located in more than 300 cities. He is also the president of David Oyedepo's Ministries International. Oyedepo said that he received a mandate from God to liberate the world from all oppressions of the devil. Some of Oyedepo's released books include All You Need to Have Your Needs Met, Understanding Divine Direction, and Exploring the Secrets of Success. Okay? And finally, the number 1 person on this list of top earning pastors worldwide is Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth Copeland is his estimated worth $310 million. Kenneth Copeland is a televangelist who founded Kenneth Copeland Ministries in Tarrant County. About 500 people are employed at KCM. He is one of the original members of President Donald Trump's Evangelical Advisory Committee. Some of Copeland's published books are From Faith to Faith devotional, The Laws of Prosperity, Pursuit of His Presence, The Blessings of the Lord, Prayer, Your Foundation for Success, How to Discipline Your Flesh, The Force of Faith, Limitless Love, a 365-day devotional, and How You Call It is How It Will Be. Okay, so it goes on to say Kenneth Copeland has a net worth of $310 million. He once said, I am a very wealthy man. Indeed. That's a lot of 501c3 status. So you can see here, just based on the information that we have shared, that the church, such as it is a governmental arm, so to speak, and it benefits the governments of the world. Make sure and see to it that the churches benefit, such that to become a pastor is putting you on a trajectory to become a very wealthy person. There's some pastors who serve faithfully who are not wealthy, but some are. But the bottom line is that the churches, such as they are money-making, money-generating, revenue-generating businesses that are offered governmental deductions. You give into the church, your money is given back to you in tax credits. Okay, and so what we see here is just this wholesale effort to bring pressure to bear on all those who would seek after the Most High, so that in every avenue you find that you're fighting against systems that's trying to enslave you, whether it be in finance, governmental politics, whether it be in the school systems, whether it just be in your local grocery stores. You're fighting against systems everywhere you look that would seek to enslave you, to steal from you, to kill and to destroy. But all praises to the Most High. There's a kingdom coming. There's a kingdom coming where there is a man in charge, as it rightly should be. There's a man in charge. There's a king in charge. Not a harlot woman, but a man in charge. The man, the Alua man, Yahushua HaMashiach, who comes to set things right, who will bring the kingdom and who will destroy wickedness, and who will no longer allow the church, Circe, to lure away his faithful followers, but who will bring truth. And those who have ears to hear will be given an opportunity to receive truth. But those who desire to stay drugged, but those who desire to stay in Circe's bed will be judged with the wicked. So this has just been a brief synopsis of the church, Circe, and how its presence in the scriptures is false, beyond false, beyond false. It should not be there. We know that the root word for church is Circe or Kirke, and the word in the Greek is ekklesia. So the word shouldn't even be in the scriptures. It was added on purpose. There's another definition for the word Circe or Kirke. It's a pagan ritualized circle. It's a circle much like Stonehenge, where sometimes stones are set up so that people stand around the circle and engage in pagan worship of pagan deities. Okay, that's another definition of Circe or Kirke. Once again, pointing to paganism. It should not be in the scriptures. So wherever you see the word church in the scriptures, you would do well to replace it with ekklesia. That's the original Greek word, or you could just say congregation or assembly. Okay, congregation or assembly. Thank you for joining me once again on the channel, brothers and sisters. I pray that this has been educational and beneficial for you as we attempt to move away from error and into truth. So this is the first of our ongoing series on pagan insertions of the scriptures.